Welcome to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with people in hip-hop culture, based out of New England. Leeds.
Woo!
Got it. How am I sounding? Good?
You're sounding great. You're looking great too. I mean, you got the background going. I am like, what is that? Where are you right now?
Well, long story, but it's a bitch when you help somebody with their flooding issues and you find yourself in a situation you weren't expecting. So you just wing it. It goes what you got. You know, it's not a bad situation though, right?
Story of my life, but I didn't get as good of a location to film this out of that you
Yours
have.
looks way more normal than mine, man. Yours looks way more down to earth than mine does. Mine looks like, where the fuck does this guy get off with this loud ass background and the horse's ass behind him? You know, I mean, what's he trying to tell us right now?
I think you're trying to tell us you're a horse's ass.
Okay, move a little bit more like this. Okay, we're gonna go like that.
Put your head a little closer to the ass, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Let's I'll make a fabulous outtake for TikTok. Love the shit, by the way.
Yes, I wore this because I knew me and you come from similar '80s influence. So
My dad loved that movie.
Oh, I'd love it too. And on that note, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast with a very special guest. He calls himself a larger-than-life personality, Mr. DJ Sterling Golden.
I wish I was the one using that nickname, my dude. But yeah, people I think are being nice when they say larger than life. I think they're trying to say other shit, but in a very nice way. They call it being larger than life, but I can read into that a million ways, man.
Well, it's better than saying you're the horse's ass.
As a pre-show joke, yo. And maybe before we log off of here, I'll show you what we're talking about. Maybe. Yeah. My location, man. Definitely a bit extra today, but that's all right.
Well, it seems like you and I are both having quite the day. And like I said, I
heard,
yesterday I went to my apartment and my fridge caught on fire. My condo that I'm moving back into.
The fuck?
Yeah, it caught on fire. The motor just decided to catch on fire and smoked out the whole place. Luckily, the neighbor caught it early, but and called the fire department. But they had to smash down my door because nobody was there yet. And there's a bunch of damage. I'm moving in next week. And,
oh my God, man.
And while I'm on my way over there, the fire wasn't that bad. I mean, it just, I got a broken door frame and a new fridge and some minor stuff.
Right.
So everyone's okay.
Good.
But on my way over there, I as I'm walking through the apartment, I had a Jolly Rancher candy in my pocket. And I'm like, oh, nice, Jolly Rancher. I ate it and ripped one of my fillings right out of my teeth.
Oh fuck! And that's a day.
On top of the fire. Fire.
Your fridge catches on fire. A candy breaks your teeth. Now you know what a day is.
Yes. So that's why I was late. I had to reschedule. Thank you for being flexible because I had to go into emergency dental repair, and we're here.
But here we are. You're okay now.
Dedication is what I'm trying to say. Me and you both have it. I know you are dedicated as well, and we're going to get into that. I was looking at your bio, and I didn't see where you're from. Where are you from?
Definitely New England situation, man. Somerville born. Actually, Cambridge born. Somerville raised. And New England's been my backdrop most of my life. It's definitely been a good life here, other than about a half a year living out in Brazil. This has been my situation. It's been my world, and New England's been a fabulous home to me, to my family, man, so big respect and big love to New England. I'm proud to be from here, and it's a good time. It's funny, man, Somerville, growing up in Somerville in the 80s, Winter Hill District, you have no idea that you're growing up during the height of Whitey Bulger's reign in the neighborhood. You wonder why your neighborhood's so well-to-do, why everyone's so well-behaved and dressed so nice and shit, and then you find out decades later, oh, so that's why. Okay, so we had a neighbor we lived next door to in Winter Hill, and my mom would see him every morning, and she would call him Billy Joel because he looked exactly like Billy Joel with a nice long trench coat on, well-to-do, and she would go, "Oh, there goes Billy Joel." Man, we had no idea. That was Whitey's time. So that's why the neighborhood was so well behaved and all the businesses were so well run. It's crazy shit. But New England, man, good times.
It's interesting, man. I always hear about the Winter Hill gang, and I know the story. I know Winter Hill pretty well as far as that area. I had a girlfriend that lived over there, so I used to go over there a lot. But it's a whole different place now, though. Somerville is. I feel like Somerville's the new Cambridge, and
Yeah.
Cambridge is just is a new thing. I don't even know what Cambridge is anymore.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
Besides
of
Central
progress.
Square. Central Square is still Central Square, but
Central Square will always be Central Square. I don't care how much lipstick you put on it. It's always going to smell the same, look the same, and that's why I love it. And Somerville, especially out around Broadway and shit, near Winter Hill, yeah, it's made a lot of progress, but try walking through there about 4 a.m. and you'll see the rats still making themselves known. The shit it's different during the daytime, but by nighttime, same Somerville.
Yeah, Winter Hill isn't like the other sections of Somerville that I've noticed that are more like like Assembly Square. You know what I mean? Like
It's totally different
now.
now.
Yeah, I mean, so you had that movie theater there in Somerville. Remember?
Yeah,
I'm trying to
man.
think of back then it was
I don't recognize it no more.
right.
I don't know it no more. Like it's become a whole nother world. And to this day, if I happen to pull up to Assembly Row, it's like, man, where's my theater? Where's my Assembly Square Mall with the giant tank with the logo, and the World Gym that Hogan used to part own, and the Paperama store and shit. I mean, my Assembly Row is gone, man. Assembly Row it's all right, but and hey, all the big sneaker outlets, they're all out there. Can't lose, but I miss my old school shit.
It's I used to go to that movie theater because Somerville Theater was like that movie theater was like movies would stay in that theater just a little longer than anyone else. That was like the last theater you could go see movies in. Like I saw Backstage in that theater, the hip hop documentary, and there were a couple times I ended up in there because it was the only place to see the movie I wanted to see. So I was very grateful for the Somerville Theater. They kept movies a little longer than a longer expiration date over there.
I saw so many dope movies in the day at that theater, man. When it was Sac Cinema, when it was, let's see, Lowe's, USA Cinema, and Sony Theater finally. I saw Boys in the Hood for the first time
at that theater.
Yeah, oh, wow. Friday, same thing. And outside the hip hop realm, God, I saw Ghostbusters there when it first came out. Yeah, I'm old, yo. No Holds Barred when it first came out, Clash of the Titans. Over the top. My dad saw that shit on VHS.
Oh, I saw that.
That's one of my dad's favorite movies ever. Like he watched that shit so often when I was growing up. I remember random lines from that movie that I should not remember all these years later. Like when Stallone would take his baseball cap and turn it sideways or backwards to get power. And then you had Terry Funk playing a bodyguard and crazy fucking
Bull Hurley.
See,
my relationship to that movie is my dad was a truck driver.
Okay.
So I grew up with truck drivers around, or those types.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the movie, they're all truck drivers arm wrestling. And so I always loved that movie. I love the storyline behind it. And I was a big Stallone fan in the 80s. So
I just like 1,000 feet tall back then.
What?
Still is. To so many people, he's still larger than life to this day.
You see his recent documentary on Netflix?
I haven't yet. I want to see it.
It's great. Sly. It's called Sly. It's great.
I've got time now. I'll definitely check out Sly because, man, big respect. That man, Sly Stallone, he started out, his first film was?
It was a hard R movie. It
was a softcore film.
Party at Kitty
and Studs.
Which was then changed, and then it was changed. Yeah, so you beat me to it. It was changed to Italian Stallion is when Rocky came out.
My favorite movie theme of all time is in that movie. When they redid the Italian Stallion, they added a new theme to it. It's like the craziest fucking 1970s movie theme you'll ever hear, and I fucking love that shit. It's like, okay, if I'm gonna see anything out of this movie, It's got a dope soundtrack, at least. You know,
What did you say? You cut out. What did you say? What soundtrack?
it's got a dope soundtrack, at least. I couldn't tell you about the film. Soundtrack's dope.
There's not much to the film.
You've
I've
seen it?
seen it too. I've
Oh
seen
my
it.
God, you've seen the
It's
movie?
just I have seen it. Yeah,
Oh, no shit.
I have seen the movie. I went through a phase of movies where I watch controversial films,
Yeah.
or movies like this, and and then I had heard about this movie, so I was like, all right, I'll check it out, and it's horrible. It's just a softcore, bad softcore. It's like whatever you thought softcore was in the '90s, this is 10 times worse in the '70s, and I'm surprised he didn't. The money that he had, he couldn't pull that off the shelf. Because I'm surprised he.
$200
Sure,
he
he doesn't
made
want
off
that.
that.
Well, I'm
$200
just saying now he's so rich now that he didn't pay to just get rid of that movie. I'm surprised he didn't do that.
True, but I think actually what ended up happening was some like international home video distributors got a hold of it, and there's been a million different home video versions of that movie since. Yeah. And all I know is he got paid $200, and he was living in the subway system at the time. Had to sell his dog just to live. He had nowhere to live at the time. And after that came that other cinematic classic, Death Race 2000.
Oh, I never saw that one.
That one I've seen. That one I've
see.
seen. It's ridiculous.
I'm sure it is.
It's ridiculous.
The documentary loosely touches on that. The big one that talks about the breakthrough performance before Rocky was Lords of Flatbush, which I still haven't seen that one.
Yes,
but that was kind of his breakthrough. With the Fonz. So shout out Stallone, shout out Over the Top, shout out Truck Drivers, and shout out Arm Wrestling, an '80s film. You also mentioned Hulk Hogan in that gym, and I've seen footage. One of my trainers worked basically an in gym, or whatever they call it, in store or in gym. When Hogan showed up to the gym in the middle of the day, he was working security and hung out at that Gold's in the early '90s, and it was crazy. I watched the footage. I was like, "Oh, it was
nuts, man! It was nuts, man!" Because the Hulk was a part owner, and I was there for the grand opening when I was 10 with my dad, and he pulled up in a long white limo. This is at the height of his 1980s like popularity. He had just beaten Andre in the Silverdome and shit, and you saw Hogan at his height. You saw like a larger than life. That comes up a lot here, but he was a titan, man. A giant among giants. And late '90s, actually, he had a chance pull up there. He was doing a workout before a television show. He had his NWO shirt under a camel vest. He had the painted black beard, 2 in the afternoon, no TV, no cameras, but had part of the character on. And even though he was playing a villain at the time, there were kids there to meet him. He still picked them up, took photos with them, was still nice as fuck to those kids. Hollywood Hogan, man, he was not on that fuck them kids vibe, man. He was still good to the kids and went up to people in the neighborhood. Was like, "Hey, good to see you again, brother." And went in, was friendly as anything, and yeah, man, he, what can I say? If you grew up during that time, you knew how important Hulk was to pop culture at that time. And to this day, he's in a whole nother level now with the cannabis business he's in now and all that. But yeah, my name came from Hulk Hogan, so Sterling Golden, but so always big respect to what he used to represent.
Yeah, and I'm from that era too, where Hulk Hogan was probably one of the biggest people and one of the biggest celebrities of the '80s. I was into wrestling as a kid, and I started like around WrestleMania 1 and 2. I think that's when I started watching it, and pretty much went till 7, 1 to 7. That's my my wrestling career watching it.
Yeah,
but
that's most of us. Definitely.
It was everything to me back then. It was everything.
Same. Your Instagram stories, man. I'll see the occasional, old school wrestling flick in there, and I always point like, there's Andre, there's Macho Man, there's Bret Hart, there's Roddy Piper and whatever like that, and man, we have a family like mine who all were wrestling fans in the glory days of the business, the golden years. My mom saw Bruno Sammartino wrestle Killer Kowalski in the Old Garden.
Wow.
My dad has wrestling stories for days. My dad has a story about seeing Ernie Ladd in a restaurant in the '70s in Boston. He bought a foot long, and Ernie Ladd was a big dude, 6'8", 330 pounds. He ate that hot dog in one bite, like nothing. Just took a whole big bite out of it and it was done.
Jeez.
My dad has crazy wrestling stories like that. My sister used to meet the wrestlers, after shows and shit with my cousin and then her aunt. And yeah, wrestling runs deep. Old school wrestling runs deep in the family.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go on YouTube and I'll watch, like I said, I'm WrestleMania 1. I go on YouTube and watch, some of the wrestling matches from before that time in the 70s, Bruiser Brody, Duel of the Butcher, Terry Funk, Harley Race. And it's crazy the transition from that to WWF. WWF just puts such a cinematic theme to it. And because it was really raw back then, it wasn't as flashy, even as it's even more flashy now, but like even, the WWF days back then, I mean, they would literally grapple for 20, 30 minutes. What I mean? Like
I couldn't speak to now, but I can tell you that in them days in the 70s, I mean, even then though, in the McMahon territory in New York and Northeast, it was always on that flash tip. Superstar Billy Graham.
Oh, okay.
We had Haystacks Calhoun. We had, all these gimmicks. The Wolfman, managed by Fred Blassie. People like that. And all these crazy, like the Hangman, people like that. Or, we were always like the Yukon Lumberjacks and Irish Pat Barrett. Always a gimmick around here. And managers like the Grand Wizard of Wrestling and Captain Lou Albano, Fred Blassie, the unholy trinity of wrestling managers, always trying to take down Bruno or Bob Backlund, But I mean, I grew up watching that territory with my dad.
That's
so
cool.
To me, the WWF or WWF was wrestling.
So
to me,
you're saying before WrestleMania, it was still WWF was still.
I mean, not as flashy, not as over the top of the presentation,
right.
But the gimmicks were always out there.
Gotcha.
The McMahon territory always had these names that were just so different from everybody else. And whereas other territories were considered like the working man's territories, where they're more like, 60-minute Broadways, which were like 10-minute draws and things like that. Around here, you had Ivan Putski.
Multiple rounds too.
Power on the microphone. Yeah, we had Ivan Putski here.
Well, there's also many multiple falls. Like I never seen that before. Mm-hmm. Like they'd wrestle, pin, and then let's do 2 more falls. I was like, wow, dude.
Or the 10-man tags. If we had a 5 falls, 2-hour time limits and shit.
Wow.
I remember one. It was 3 out of 5 falls, 10-man tag in the Philadelphia Spectrum. It was Andre the Giant, Jimmy Snuka, Salvatore Bellomo, Rocky Johnson, and Jimmy Snuka against, or Pedro Morales versus Don Morocco, Buddy Rose, Superstar Billy Graham, Big John Studd, and there's a 5th guy in there I can't remember right now, but Mr. Fuji, I think. And it was like 3 out of 5. It was not one fall, it was over. It just kept going like a one night's card in one match. That's what it was like back then. I mean, but man, I could not speak to today's wrestling if you paid me, but get me up to about where Hulk last had a run in the ring in the tights, and I could tell you some shit, but after like 2004 or 5, I fall off.
Yeah. I always say this story. I stopped obviously in like 92, 93, whatever. And then I went to college, and then guys I were going to college with, I thought no one watched wrestling anymore because no one I knew did. And then I went to college, and then
I wouldn't admit to it anyway.
And they were all like, it was like this reemergence of Ric Flair fans and Stone Cold and Rock and all this. And it was like, wow, wrestling. Yeah. And it was
ECW.
like, I still didn't watch it, but I had more of respect for it. It'd be
for me,
they were all into it.
As Hulk was on, I watched it. As long as Hulk was there, I kept up. So when he stopped wrestling, I just kind of fell off and lost interest after a while. And of course, as you get older, you already know all the secrets about the business. It's predetermined. All the shit behind the scenes. But yet, back then, you could still suspend disbelief a little bit for a couple of hours and forget what you're watching is a show. And you forget these guys don't really hate each other competitively. They may want, the larger purse and get paid more and pushed more, but I mean, you forget that The Rock and Hollywood Hogan don't really have a rivalry. They're really actually trying to help each other out and shit like that. But you forget that if they're professionals. If they're the best, then you lose yourself in that spectacle. Back then, it was the world's most entertaining sport.
It was. Now, you talk about Hogan and The Rock. I listened to both of their Joe Rogan podcasts talk about it. Did you hear those or watch those at all?
Not big on Joe Rogan, but I know the Hulk story enough to know the backstory on that match and know how The Rock's father got involved in the setup and the whole build up and how the crowd turned on The Rock and cheered on Hollywood Hogan, even though he was the villain. The nostalgia kicked in and Hulk had to improvise and do the hulking up thing and all that. I watched that match. That was the last great wrestling match, in my opinion. The Rock and Hogan.
That's what they were saying. They were saying that's one of the best ones. And but it was just these guys' stories about the whole wrestling and the damage that Hogan did to his body, man. Oh my Lord.
That leg drop.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, I just landed on my ass and my back for 30, 40 years. And he's like, that shit just paralyzed me.
The crazy thing is, this is on YouTube actually. Long after he did the surgeries and everything else, and he was semi-retired, he did this one-off like 20 years ago in Memphis for an upstart promotion. He wrestled the Big Show, Paul White, the Giant, who was like 7'2", like 500 pounds. And even though Hulk was breaking down by that point, he still lifted Big Show, the Giant, and slammed him and dropped the leg. Adrenaline kicked in. And afterward, he basically collapsed because he just could not believe he had just lifted this guy. And the back pain was so bad, and but the thing is, that entertainment business, I mean, you do it, you make those choices. You go out there, you give that audience what they want, and unfortunately, like look at Cactus Jack, Mick Foley. I can't imagine what he must be going through today. All the shit he put himself through, over 200 injuries, he's mutilated, missing ear and shit. I mean, look at Terry Funk, RIP. I mean, it's nuts, man. I mean, I loved it as a kid, but I could never imagine getting in there and doing that.
Hard.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like when I remember in the 80s, all the wrestlers were they weren't necessarily the best physical condition, but they were tough as nails.
Yes.
You had to be tough. Like that's why they weren't like really flashy looking guys. They looked like tough SOBs.
I had two obsessions growing up. It was music, and back then it was wrestling. And I miss the old days, man. I wish it was still as entertaining as it was. I wish I could still lose myself in it. I couldn't tell you fuck all about today's shit, but yeah, good times.
What do you think your favorite match is? What was your favorite match?
Okay, well, it was Tokyo Dome, April 13th, 1990. It was Hulk Hogan against Stan the Lariat Hansen. And here's the thing. People who love, the scientific wrestling and the chain wrestling, and when they simulate the amateur style or the strong style, I mean, Hogan in America did what he was paid to do. He did what he was asked to do, be a showman. They weren't asking him to be a chain wrestler. In Japan, he could stretch his muscles more and do more shit because the audience demanded more. In Japan, they made it look like a show, but they were really out there killing each other in that ring to entertain people, and it was competitive. So with Hogan and Stan Hansen, Stan Hansen, my God, he was the guy who broke the neck of Bruno Sammartino. Legit.
Tough SOB.
Oh yeah, my God, yeah. He took Bob Backlund to his limit, stretchered him, I know. And then he wrestles Hogan. He wrestled the three greatest world champions the Northeast ever had. Sammartino, Backlund, Hulk, and he did it in Tokyo. They went all out, man, all over the building. They fought hard, they bled, they sweat, and they made you believe this was a combat sport. Hogan could do that if he pushed himself to do it, if he was paid to do it. Hello, dog. And, I mean, all the respect in the world to Stan Hansen, too. The guy was a shooter. He could brawl. He did not give a fuck. I mean, I heard he had poor eyesight, too. So if he hit you, he didn't know he was going. So good luck if he hits you hard. If he can. Yeah, man.
It's premeditative. It's premeditative matches, yes, but they physically get hurt. And
Yes.
you have to be
Yes.
tough to do it.
Yes.
It's not for the faint. I know people that have tried it, got in the ring, and just going off the ropes hurt. You know what I mean? Like they were like, "I'm not doing this."
Yeah,
So,
ropes will burn. You know, I mean, it's like you think you could go in there like, hey, I was an athlete in college. I could go in there and do that fake shit, you know, and next thing you know, they're coming home the next day, cuts all over their back from the ropes. They can't move. They can't walk. They got, you know, worked out till they puked, doing squats and shit like that. You know, I mean, again, back to Hogan, his first ever time in a training session, Hiro Matsuda, his trainer, to make an example of him, took his leg, posted it, and broke his ankle. Yep. And he came back 2 months later and said, "Can I get back in there? I'm ready to go. I want to do this for real." Now, if you can come back from that shit, you know, you're legitimate, you know, but again, those guys are tougher than tough, man. And big love to them because I could never do what they do.
And the thing I like about Hogan is he was a musician before he was a wrestler.
Yes, he was a bass player. He was in a garage band called Ruckus. Infinity's End was another one. And in fact, Hogan could actually, he played bass on a couple of the those wrestling albums later. You know, he went in there.
I love seeing those old wrestling music things where they're all playing. It's so funny.
Yes. You know, I'm on an interview. I know. I'm on an interview. And yeah, you know, can we pause for one moment, Ned?
Sure. Yeah.
Pause for one moment.
Well,
I notified Tina. All right.
I'll just close on the wrestling tip. My favorite match, I think, was just Hogan Warrior. Hogan Warrior, WrestleMania 6. It was so anticipated. The match was crazy. And it was kind of like me saying goodbye to wrestling in a way, because it was like this. It never really captured that for me after that moment.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is.
I didn't have the access that you had.
What's that?
I didn't have access to as many matches as you had.
Well, WrestleMania 6 was another example. You know, I mean, that match saw the two of them, you know, really go for broke out there. You know, Hogan and Warrior really pushed themselves hard to their limits, you know, and even though as a teenager, I was not a fan of how the whole thing ended. I would have preferred if Hogan had come out the winner. I also understand his performance, you know, and the company needed a new guy to run with for a while, and Warrior was that guy.
Yeah, not for long though. He didn't even make it a year. He was
Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, within 6 months he lost. He was too crazy.
Sergeant Slaughter, man, you know, took the championship from him, and I remember watching that, and I was not a fan of the Warriors' run. So when Sergeant Slaughter got the title, I was probably the only teenager cheering for Sergeant Slaughter, because I knew that meant Hulk was going to get the title back at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Real quick, let's just get one Hulk Hogan drop from you. You do a great Hogan impersonation. Drop. Give me a Leeds Edutainment Hulk Hogan drop.
I have not done this in a minute, y'all, but if we're looking for a Hulk Hogan drop, I mean, I don't know, on the Leedz Edutainment podcast, brother. That doesn't work for me, brother. Ned, I'm gonna come down there right now, man. I'm gonna pick you up, brother, and slam you through the epicenter of the earth, dude. Because Hulkamania is running wild, man. Okay, that's it.
All right, show's over. We're done.
And that's gonna be the clip he uses in the preview.
Damn right it is.
I'm done, y'all.
No, you're not done. So yeah, okay. In the 2000s, you decide you're going to get into the nightclub business. You know, it says this was the lowest point of your life. You were 320 plus pounds, which is obese, and you said you were suffering with a lot of depression. Talk to me more about this.
Crazy time, Ned. You know, I mean, for real, man, it was like every day I was dealing with mental abuse in the house and shit. You know, I was in a bad relationship at the time with a partner that just took all of her shit out on me. And because of that, I found myself doing a lot of aggression eating, depression eating, you know, and I thought that could get me out of it, you know, and At that point, Ned, I was 320 pounds and just eating the worst shit I could eat, hoping that maybe that could be the ticket out of my problems. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I knew two things, you know, I knew two things back then. I'm depressed and one day I won't be. And I had to fight my way out of that shit. I had no choice, so had to remember that you got greater purpose in this life than to let someone tell you you're useless and shit like that every fucking day and deal with this over and over again. So you got to get yourself out of that. So I did what I could, Ned. I found the courage to walk away from that relationship and start to drop that weight and find my purpose in life. And I thank every day a promoter who's out here in New England, Anderson Marr, RIP. She broke me into the business and let me get self-trained to become a DJ. I had this crazy idea for a party vibe where we promoted what I called at the time genre equality, with multiple different cultures and genres in a single night setting. And I wanted to call it legacy. And she said, get self-trained, take a year, and then get back to me. And most kids would think that you're getting blown off, but no, I went out and got self-trained and I did what I had to do. And I got back to Anderson a year later and I said, hey, look, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this shit, and she, to her credit, that day, April 2009, got me booked for my very first DJ set, which was July of 09. And July 3rd, 09 started off the journey. And man, I'll tell you, it's a grateful one, a grateful fucking journey, because I'm fortunate to live the life that I always imagined for myself.
What were you spinning? Like, where were you DJing? What was the culture?
Well, back then, you couldn't really do mixed genre parties at the time. It was not, in vogue yet. It wasn't common back then. Even though this was the age of the MP3 player starting to rise up and people starting to mix shit up, it wasn't really carrying over yet into parties. Not that I knew of anyway. If it was, I didn't know about it. So if I'm inaccurate on this, it's not me trying to, stunt you, or try to flex. It's legitimately, I didn't know, but, at that time, the culture was, it was welcome. There was a lot more upbeat, that it's been in the recent years with the world changing and being what it is and all that, and it was an era of hope and optimism. And so it was a different time. It was a lot more fun back then for me because it was just starting out too. And people were interested in this whole mixed genre thing. People were intrigued that they had never seen that before in this area. So, initially it was like, okay, what the fuck is this? What do I do with this? And then they came out and checked it out. They pulled up and they were like, okay, this shit's different. This guy's different. He definitely seems to know himself, or he thinks he knows himself. And I'm sure back then, there are people back then who thought, I wish I could buy him for what he's worth and some for what he thinks he's worth. I'm sure people back then thought that of me. But you know what, man? I was confident in what I was doing. And I was confident that people would eventually pick up on this. And they did. My first night, that first night, $82, whatever, paid for a cab and some greasy pizza on the way home. I lived like way up from the venue, but eventually I got residencies out here and better gigs, and it was getting better and better for me. And I was getting more and more noticed out here, which was awesome. I was super blessed, to use a cliche. And man, what can I say? It was a fabulous start for me. I was super impressed to be a part of it and super blessed to be there. So yeah, I can't complain.
You made a comment I haven't heard, or you labeled it Indie Sleeze. What does that mean?
The Indie Sleeze era,
What is that?
Commonly used for what the late 2000s, beginning of the 2010s was. Like a lot of the modern indie back then and underground shit. Like a lot of the Britpop back then, the shoegaze back then, the grime, okay. UK underground hip hop and UK underground EDM and shit like that. All of that culture. Gotcha. From MIA to LCD Sound System down to, Passion Pit out here in Boston, now in Brooklyn or later in Brooklyn. all of that shit, and
I know that. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, man, I mean, so to be a DJ amid that time and to be at venues out here with all these like, crazy hipsters that just wanted to get out and just live their best lives and look their best and look sharp and be fabulous. It was a fun time to get started, man. I felt just like, damn, if I'm gonna get started up in this shit, this is a good time to do it.
Yeah, and you DJ'd for how long?
First 5 years of my run, 2009 to 2014, and I got what I wanted out of it. I got to DJ not only around here, but also got gigs out in Australia doing a cruise. It was like a one-off weird fucking thing I did.
Great.
DJing out in South America. A lot of shit out here, of course, and good times everywhere I went. I mean, I didn't go to all four corners of the world, mind you, but I just got to see enough shit beyond New England where I felt like I was actually making something of this, and I had a lot of fun DJing. Ultimately, radio took over for me as the passion, but other things too, like event curation and things like that, content creating. But man, when I did it, I'm the ones and twos, being the Lord of the dance, like they call it. Good fucking times. I met so many fabulous mix masters out here who do it so much better than I did, but I was super honored to be on the same bill as them. DJing at Rise, at Good Life, at Great Scott, all these dope venues we have out here, Bijou and all them. To see venues that I used to pull up to as a patron, and now I'm running the party. I mean, you feel like you did something when you're behind those ones and twos, and those kids are, out there getting it into your shit. You're curating for them. I mean, that's the ultimate honor for a party kid to be the guy running it.
Yeah, no, I DJ'd. I started off as a DJ myself.
Correct.
Hip hop, to Technique 1200s.
Love it, man.
Rain
That's
mixer.
the real shit. That's the real shit, man.
And that's how I started. And then, I got away from that and I moved to Boston and went to study the business side of things. But yeah, I mean, it was curation, DJing. It's the best.
Yes, it was.
I feel like I'm born, and then my transition into a music producer, it's all from that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Having an ear for music.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, please, by all means.
So you talked to me, you're DJing for 5 years in the clubs, and you said that you went into radio, which became your new passion.
Mm-hmm. What
drove you there? Because around 2014, radio is a difficult thing. It's always been a difficult thing, but now it's really difficult thing.
It's basically dying. It's dead. I mean,
right.
Final nails in the coffin, in my opinion. But I mean, I started in 2010 with radio. So during my time as a DJ, and I began doing that shit because it was a vehicle to promote my DJing gigs. I did independent radio. I never did mainstream radio. Right. And I did independent, not because I couldn't do mainstream. There were offers from a couple of outlets, but it was because I wanted to be the master of my own fate, to control my destiny and control my content. Never wanted to be a guy paid to just play the hits and just say what's on the copy. I don't care how well it paid. I wanted my creative freedom. I didn't need the money that badly. I was doing fine with money elsewhere in the business, but, it was a matter of wanting that control of the content and spotlighting who I wanted to shine a light on, and the music I wanted to share with my listeners. And so when you heard me drop a record, you knew it came from the heart, and because I really wanted you to check this shit out, not because I'm being paid to, play the top 10 and play some Taylor Swift for you. You can hear that whenever you fucking want, anywhere. You're learning nothing from me if I play that shit for you, but if I'm curating an experience on the radio with guests that I want to share with you and music that I believe in, that's the real shit, man. That's legit, and I always wanted to be as authentic. I mean, it's a cliche word now, I get it, but I always wanted to be as authentic as I could be, because in a world where everyone's embracing being as fake as you can on social media and shit, authenticity is getting more and more rare. And I never wanted to lose that, Ned. I always wanted to be the guy that kept it authentic.
Well, you did. I agree with you, man. It's that is a tough balance in a difficult business.
Yes.
You know, we
Yes.
all struggle with it. Many of us struggle with it. So you
Yeah.
started radio. I'm trying to think, when did I meet you? I met you around 2000, let's say 15, 16. You were running a show at the time. It was video though. It wasn't radio. What was that?
Right.
What was that show?
Oh my God, that had to be the morning show, Sterlingtology Live.
I feel like it wasn't. No, it wasn't in the morning, because I feel like we
No.
were in the nightclubs doing interviews.
No, you know what it was? You're thinking of Dirty Water Media.
Dirty Water Media. That's
Dirty
how I met
Water
you.
TV on the New England Sports Network, man.
Yep, that's what
I'm
it was.
messing. Yeah, man. Oh my God, them days were crazy.
That's
Shit
what
was
I met
wild. Oh my God, man. It's like that gang, man, the Dirty Water Media crew, man, they were out of pocket. Seriously. Like open bar at every taping. There was a buffet and shit. And they just lived like the celebrities on that trip, you know. All good people, you know, all fabulous people. It was just a different trip for me, you know. And you pulled up when they were doing the stage nightclub interviews, when it was like a dark venue before they opened up. You weren't there when they were doing the greatest bar and shit like that. It was really lit. You missed that part of it. Like,
Was that the greatest bar? It might have been.
not on yours. It was stage nightclub. It was dark.
Okay.
There was nobody else there but the crew.
Yeah,
Myself
yeah.
and Samantha Lynn, who wasn't here long, out of Texas.
Yeah,
And
I remember her.
it was you and Mo D.
Yeah.
It was you and Mo D.
Yeah. Shout out Mo
And,
D.
that interview and all my excess weight from the free buffet is still on YouTube, yo. Come see
Go check that
Sterling
out.
at his worst. Ned at his best, Sterling at his worst. It's on YouTube. Check it out.
I don't think that was you at your worst.
Man, I was putting on weight again. Okay. I
Oh,
was starting to like lose sight of the goals, you know, and I was starting to get into the excesses of shit and forgetting to stay healthy, you know, and it was showing on camera after a while. And I had to kind of get off camera and go, oh shit, I better drop that weight. You know, so I left the Dirty Water thing, get back to radio, because I'm like, man, I can't do this right now. I don't look good at all. I can't go on cable like this. People are seeing me like breaking out again, and they're like, what happened to your 320 bullshit, you know? And you're gaining a half of it back now, Sterling. Well, thank you for your honesty, y'all, for telling me that, because if you hadn't, I would have been going out on camera getting fatter every week. Well, thank you for your honesty.
so weight is something that sounds like you struggle with.
I did, definitely. You
I
know,
mean, it's something we
and
all struggle. We all struggle with. You're not alone in this.
absolutely
You know?
not. That's the
You
thing
know?
with depression and any struggle is remembering you're not alone. I had to remember that shit myself, you know, and it was the best shit ever to remember I was not alone in that battle. I was super blessed by that shit, as cliche as that may sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience, I've been always a big guy, you know, so my whole life, it's like everybody expected me to eat more, you know, because I'm big, you know,
Right,
like
right.
my parents, my grandparents, oh, you're a big guy, eat, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
my portion control was miscued terribly from being big. Like I was just like, oh, I'm supposed to eat double, right? I'm 6'4". So I always got that screwed up. And, you know, my grandfather, you know, he had issues with his weight and,
Right.
loved to cook. And so it was something I always struggled with. And, when I was at the end of my drinking and drugging, I was huge.
Yeah.
I was probably 280, 290 at that time.
Oh my God.
And, yeah, when I got sober,
Oh man. Oh my God.
I gained even more weight because I was like craving all that sugar alcohol. So I was just like, I gave myself permission to eat whatever I want as long as I didn't drink. So I got real big.
Oh my God.
And I had to do something about it. But it's so like I can understand how things can get out of control in that department.
Yes, sir. You know, and I appreciate anybody who can recognize their struggles and do the shit they need to do to get better. You know, do the right shit for themselves. And it looks to me like you did, man. You know, and big respect for all you did to, you know, get off that train and get healthy and get back to what you love. And man, it shows in the work with Leedz Entertainment. You know, I mean, anybody who's paying attention to independent hip hop you see that Leeds Entertainment logo, you know you're getting quality shit.
Thank you.
From a worker among workers to anything before that, man. I mean, from the many shows you promoted with hip hop icons and up and comers, it shows the work. You're focused. You're doing the right thing for the culture, for yourself, above all. And I can't stress enough the respect I got for what you do and how you overcome that shit, for real.
Appreciate that, dude. And I always appreciated your and respected your hustle, because it's a very unrewarding business. You're not going to be told, you're not going to be told, good job with your hard work. You're the unsung hero. Guys that do what we do, we're unsung heroes.
Here's hustle for you guys, okay? Today, I had to help a neighbor of mine with this flood. There was a massive fucking flooding overnight in our area in some parts. And this dude needed help getting cleaned up. I helped him. That meant Sterling's not getting back to his crib to do this interview. Okay, so I was asked before this podcast, where am I at doing this interview? Well, I'm actually outside of our temporary studio where the radio station's at, and I had to use a studio laptop for part one of this interview until they needed it for a project. So now I'm on my fucking smartphone knocking up this interview. Lord knows my battery will be fucking dead when this is over. But I'm doing it because I love this shit. Even
Right.
15 years in, there's still struggle days like this. And that's okay. I love this shit. I don't mind when this shit happens. It's another challenge on the way out, one more. It's all right. I love this shit, so I put up with it because I love it.
You do love it. And your passion, you mentioned passion. I see you quoted passion a couple times. Following your passion. Well, we lost Sterling.
Oh, hold up. You there?
Yep.
Cool. I'm here.
I'll reiterate. You mentioned passion, being passion, the driving force behind what you do. You've said it a couple times here. Is that it makes it all? Talk to me about what passion really means to you.
That is the shit that separates the greats from the ain'ts, man.
Feel that.
Whatever you do it with passion. I mean, it's such a big part of getting the job done. If you don't have the love, the genuine love for what you do, then you're in the wrong fucking business. Because let me tell you, so few people actually get to live that life they want to live off this business. Many people just continue to struggle and never get off that struggle train. I respect them folks because they never stop. They love it so much, it don't matter. They keep going. But I also respect those who decide it ain't for them because they're being honest with themselves and with their peers that, hey, look, I can keep going out of ego, but you know what? I have better things I can be doing for myself and I can move on and make my life better elsewhere. Respect to them too. But where's their passion? Could be elsewhere. Mine happens to be in this business. It's a big part of it. Inspiration, perspiration, all of that, but passion for me is the driving force. And it sounds cliche. I get it. People are like, I guarantee there's people out there rolling their fucking eyes and ready to, move on from this show. It's okay. I don't blame you. But hey, all from the heart. Okay, passion is a real fucking thing for me.
No, I mean, dude, wouldn't you rather do a job that you're passionate about? Not everybody has that opportunity. Certain circumstances.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
Certain people's circumstances prohibit them from maybe doing exactly what they're passionate about.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe the market's too hard. They have family. They have other responsibilities.
Yeah.
I hope that all those people have at least something in their life that they are passionate about. Might not be their work, but at least there's something that they are. Because some people don't live for their work. My mother, she didn't live for her work. She lived for her family. That was her passion.
Yeah.
And I know people like that. You know what I mean? And that's fine too.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I think you're right. But you are right. You are right in saying that if you're gonna get into this business, you better be damn passionate about it, because if you are not, it ain't gonna be worth it.
That's literally the vibe. If I was not passionate about doing this, I would have said, you know what? I'm not making back to the crib today for this. Fuck it. I'll do it another day. No, man, I'll find another way, and If it means having to do half the show on one device and the other half on another, I'll fucking do that. You know, I mean, if it means having to do it in a situation that may not be what I was asking for, it's all right too. You know, because this is the life I wanted all these years. And for men like Ned, you know, people like Ned, who I respect, I will do that shit. You know, it gets a little messy, but that's all right. It's a messy business.
Oh yeah. So, you know, the radio, you also transition into the podcast. What else do you transition into? You do video, obviously. We talked about video.
Content curation, event planning, fashion. So many hats I've worn last decade and a half. You know,
you're really busy.
Yeah, man, booked, busy, blessed. You know, I mean, it's been a great life. I mean, I wouldn't trade it in for shit. I mean, it's been a lot of cliches, I get it, but I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. You know, because I didn't think I'd get to do this shit. Man, let me tell you, I remember years ago when I was first starting out and I was on a date and the girl told me something I never forgot. She told me, Sterling, the thing that you lack is confidence. Hit me so fucking hard because I thought I had it. And then I realized I didn't. But then after a couple of years, Ned, I began to kind of realize that, you know, the gigs are getting more often, getting better bookings, the dates are getting hotter, the nights are getting longer. I think I'm starting to find my confidence. I think I may have found it now. Until eventually I realized I found myself and now I knew myself. And knowing yourself is a huge fucking thing. Not everyone does. They may think they know themselves. But again, it goes back to people who they think what they know their worth is, but you wish you could sell them for what they think they're worth, but their worth is nowhere near what they think it is because they don't know themselves, you know? And I'm grateful to say that eventually I figured out who Sterling Golden was. And off we went, man. You know, life became a whole lot easier because life is so much easier when you are who you say you are. You know, that's the thing. You know, I mean, I say all the time, again, life is so much easier when you are who you say you are. Big fucking thing to live by for me.
You talk about people knowing your worth. You know, the market determines your worth, not us. You know what I mean?
Like, also, yes.
You know, like, or anybody else.
Well, I'm talking life in general. I'm talking life in general, even away from the business. You got to know yourself and know your worth. The market does determine your worth, you know? I'm talking away from business. I mean, life itself, where it really matters, you know, because when you're by yourself, going to bed, at the end of the day, you have only yourself to answer to. If you don't know yourself, it don't matter what the fuck your market worth is, because if you don't have that worth yourself, don't mean shit.
I totally agree with that. And, you know, as a recovering, as someone in recovery, I have done a lot of work on myself.
Yeah.
And studied a lot of things I didn't want to see.
Yeah.
And change a bunch of things that I didn't necessarily think I needed to change, but I had to.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do these things.
Yes, it is.
It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. These things are hard to look at sometimes.
Absolutely, man.
But for certain people, necessary.
Yes.
And rewarding.
That's truth, man.
I'll tell you right now, I'm in, my circumstances are probably some of the hardest I've ever been in. I've been through a lot. We all have. I've been through a lot. I can speak for myself saying the last 3 or 4 years I've been through more than I have in prior years. And the prior years were hard too.
Yeah, but absolutely, man.
My circumstances have been hard, but I like myself more now than I ever did.
That's what it's all fucking about, Ned.
You know, so I have to say, the struggle is real, but it's all good.
Yes, man. That's the thing is, it's all good at the end of the day, you know. And if you can know yourself, love yourself, it all falls into place after that. It all makes sense from there, you know.
Right.
So yeah.
I also want to talk about your role in the community because you really tried to give back to the community with what you were doing as well. This wasn't just like, hey, look at me, DJ, look at all this. No, you were trying to curate. You curated playlists, you did interviews, you were getting involved in the music scene out here and really trying to push it forward with your own spin. Talk to me about what the community means to you.
Community is everything. You know, I mean, I used to have people I used to fuck with out here and work with who called it the scene. I never liked that word. I never liked that term. So I would use the community because to me, that's what it really represents is at the end of the day, man, this independent music community and art community we're in, you know, we're all here to uplift each other. That's what it's all about, you know, and you get down to it. I don't care if you're doing music or fashion or visual art or whatever it is you're doing, any kind of content creation. You know, if you're independent, you're trying to make this your life, you know, ultimately it's the community who's going to first lift you up. Every great recording artist, every great performer, every band, everybody starts out on that level of community. Without that first push from the community, you know, the national push don't happen because you have to have track record. And that community support, uplifting each other, is so fucking top shelf essential. I can't stress it enough, you know, because, you know, go back to Leeds again, the sold out shows you've had, you know, those independent shows, community, you know, stepped up, showed out, pulled up to the venue, you know, bought tickets, bought merch, supporting their hip hop community. You know, any independent dance party you have out here, community pulls up and supports it. There are some that have lasted almost 20 years, like the Elements Drum and Bass Party at Phoenix Landing in Cambridge. Near 20 years on, you know.
Monday night, right?
Thursdays.
Thursdays, okay.
Thursday.
What was the
Elements
Monday
is
night
Thursday.
one they had? What they have Monday
Oh my
night?
God, man. Oh my God.
Reggae?
Something like that, yeah.
They had one long running Monday. I thought they had like a long running Monday night.
It was something like that.
Elements was crazy.
Elements is our longest running party in the community.
Shout out Phoenix Landing, man.
1997. Oh my God, man. I mean, I've done parties there, you know. I mean, it's definitely, you know, it's definitely a venue that's for real. Still out here, still bringing the party, you know, still standing after the pandemic, you know, still standing, still doing their shit. Big respect to that crew, keeping it going.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's tiny. People don't know that's a tiny little venue, tiny little bar with a little stage next to the Middle East that had an eclectic range of events, but mainly Elements was a drum and bass night, and that's what kind of put Phoenix. That was the staple drum and bass spot in Boston,
and a lot of soccer shows on the screens.
Oh yeah. There's a few Irish bars where you can see some soccer. You can see some soccer. Yeah. I lived next to the Banshee for a while. I'm actually moving back there. You always catch a good soccer game at the Banshee in Dorchester.
Absolutely, man. You know, I mean, I can't stress enough just how wild that place gets when it comes to like hockey or not hockey, soccer and shit like that. You know.
Yeah, they got like a membership club. It's like a membership club. You know you can't even always get in there. It's not easy.
I heard a guy say about soccer and American viewers and fans. He said that people in America only pretend to love soccer to appear cultured. I don't know about that. You know, I think there's some legitimate love from Americans for soccer out here.
It just gets trumped by football, and it's the same season.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing beats football in the United States. I'm sorry. And I'm not even a huge football guy. It's just nothing beats gladiators pounding into each other. It's been since the beginning of time.
There's a reason why the big game every year has the big name A-list music act and the halftime show. All the big sponsors pay billions of dollars or whatever it is to get a 1-minute ad. There's a reason, because that is the biggest sport of sports. You know, whether you love football or not.
Full contact.
Whether you love football or not, you know, it's undeniable just how influential it is. And I'm not a big fan of the politics and the backroom shit. You know, I'm not a fan of any of that. You know, but even I could admit, who's not a football fan, it's the biggest sport among sports. Yeah. Well, a soccer fan will tell you otherwise. I mean,
soccer, when you go outside of the United States, soccer believes is just as big outside of the United States. It's just bigger. In the United States.
A bigger sport. The most followed man on Instagram is Ronaldo.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's not a football player, it's a soccer player. And Ronaldo is one of the most beloved figures in the world. Yo, I was talking about wrestling with this guy earlier with Ned. I mentioned Hogan. If you don't know, in the 80s, Hogan in the 80s was Ronaldo today. That was the power.
Oh, you cut out on me, Sterling.
You know, I mean, it's like all that shit. I mean, everything about it. You know, Ronaldo was the guy, is the guy, I should say. And I can't stress enough just how powerful his influence is.
Yeah. Soccer, like I said, in Boston, soccer looks fairly popular because we have a lot of people from international people that come over and watch it. And a lot of Irish bars, and they love watching it with a couple pints. So, I mean, if you were walking around in Boston during a soccer game, you might think that, hey, soccer is really popular.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I mean, but I say to this day, man, I mean, that the power of soccer, I mean, football's the biggest sport among sports for America.
And isn't it kind of crazy that they call soccer football in other countries?
That's confusing as a child. And it's spelled Futbol.
Yeah. Which is kind of
crazy. As a child, I didn't get it. But I get its popularity. It's undeniable and it's out there. It's unmistakable.
Yeah, it's internet. It's almost like an Olympic thing at this point. Like it's like countries are going against other countries. It's like this, and these other countries that don't have the resources that we have. This is their thing. You know what I mean? Like soccer. You know what I mean? And it's treated. It's kind of treated like the Olympics.
In a lot of ways, yeah. In a lot of ways,
the international vibe. You know what I mean?
Got that prestige to it. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, Ned.
So Sterling, you have all this passion and all this love and all this history, and now you want to retire at a young age. Why?
It's time.
Why is it time? I mean,
I can get into details, but I'll tell you this much: family first. I mean, I've been, and I don't discuss this much on besides social media. I'll sometimes mention it, but my main role in life, aside from this industry, last 2 years has been being a caregiver to my mom and dad.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Giving back to them. I was fortunate to, help their situation get better over the years and be of assistance to them and be around for them when they need me. Now more than ever, that situation is becoming central. And I mean, when you're seeing the things that you see around the house, and it's in a place that you help secure for them and all that, and you see the health situation being what it is, you got to step up, dude. And you realize you've made good money along the way doing the shit that you do, and you're fortunate to have say you've done that. And I mean, I just knew a year ago that it was time to start winding this shit down. So I made it known a year ago that I was going to make this my last year and my best. They're subject to people who are following my shit, but mom and dad right now, they're my number one in life. I have a cat I'm raising too, a young tabby, and family first, man, like the city team says, and you got to know when it's time. And yeah, I'm young, but something, Ned, there's people who retire in their 20s for far more shallow reasons, So
your reasons are legit. You know what I mean?
That's what it is for me. It's in the heart. You got to have a good reason to walk away from the life that you built for yourself. And I have no problem doing it because I know it's time.
Why not? Why is it because of your personality? You're such an all or nothing type of guy that you still can't participate a little bit?
I mean, look, 15 years on, I have participated in every way I could. And I'm proud of the track record I've left doing this shit. Look, I don't have delusions of myself. I'm not going to fucking sit here and say that I'm going to be one of those like names from the Boston nightlife community that you're going to know decades from now and be that. I'm not iconic. I'm me. I just work hard. I don't try to be more than what I am. I am who I say I am, and I try to put as much passion, as much heart into this business as I can. And I've been doing that for a decade and a half. I have nothing to look back on that. I've done the DJing, radio, over 2,000 broadcasts I hosted and produced across 3 radio stations and 6 different series, actually. Living a life that I used to read about rock stars and hip hop stars having, and DJs having. I thought I'd never have. Man, I tell you, I mean, you've tasted every bit of forbidden fruit on the tree and shit. You live that life, and I got nothing to look back on that. I had a blessed fucking run, a grateful run, right down to doing this interview and putting up the shit that I've had to go through today to get it done with you, which I'm proud to do. It's not the setup I had in mind, but I'm happy to do it because I love the shit that I do, And I think the fact that I'm doing the interview under the circumstances that I'm doing it right now is like the last fucking word I can put down and say, look, even down to the fucking wire, the struggles. It's all right. I do it with passion. I love this business. I love everyone I've worked with out here. They helped make this for me. And I hope along the way that I helped to make some shit happen for them. Because ultimately, you gotta lift each other up. And if I helped to make somebody's career a little bit easier on their path, I did my shit right.
You had great intentions, brother, and you did help a lot of people, whether they know it or not. You know what I mean? Guys like you, like I said, are unsung heroes in the music scene. Oh man,
I'll take that. I'll take that happily, man. Gratefully.
Yeah, man. And I know I will see you again.
You will, man. I mean,
I know you'll pop up. I know you'll pop up at a show or some event or something, even if it's you're not working. You'll still be somewhere sometime.
You never know, man. You never know. All I know is right now, I got, as of this recording, 20 days till I retire on the 1st. And I got one more interview to share next week. I'm actually the guest of Destiny Costa for a special Boston Free Radio is doing called Golden Age of Radio Book 2. The interview that Destiny did about my run out here and gets really deep in the weeds. Like stories that I've never told on the air before about the shit I've gone through out here and people I've met and things I've done. And hopefully somebody out there will give it a listen and find something to be inspired by and along the way in there a little bit. Because as much as they've inspired me along the way, Ned, I hope I can help do the same for somebody else. Because we all have to uplift each other in the end.
Well, your passion was inspiring, and your work ethic was inspiring as well, man. I don't say that lightly.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Ned. I appreciate what Leedz Entertainment does too.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right, so we're gonna wrap up, man. And any announcements or anything you want to plug or anything else you want to talk about?
Hey, man. I mean, the Chop session just wrapped. The entire archive is on Spotify. If you want to check out episodes from seasons 1 through 7, we did a final installment of the Sterling Collection playlist for Spotify, which is the Sterling Collection 1976 to present, which is this crazy fucking 320 song playlist I did of music that's inspired me from boyhood to the present, including the track Massive with Steel Gold, Plane. Yep.
Great.
Yeah. Produced by The Archetype, of course. And yeah, man, I mean, it's been a great, fabulous fucking journey. And
is there a party coming up? Is there a party coming up that we need to know about, or is that select clientele?
What party?
I thought you were having a going away party.
Ned.
Yeah.
What party?
I guess not.
No. Yeah.
Undisclosed location.
What party? He knows. He knows what I mean. He knows what I mean. All right.
Well, on that note, I did. We'll say okay. Secret. It's an old warehouse party and secret invite only. But Sterling, man, great working with you, brother, and great to see everything going. And much respect to you making that sacrifice for your family.
Hey, respect to you, Ned. Respect to all y'all in the industry. I love all y'all for what you do. Keep it going, man. This industry will continue long after I finish up. And who knows? Maybe Ned's right. Maybe one day I'll be at a show somewhere. You never know. You never know.
And on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Leedz Edutainment podcast. Check out other interviews on all the streaming platforms and YouTube. And thank you, Mr. DJ Sterling Golden, brother.
Appreciate you, Ned. Thank you.
Talk soon, bro. Peace.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.